What's good, y'all? Welcome back to Rignos Hoops. Day one of NBA free agency was crazy to say the least. I wasn't home most of the day yesterday, but once 6 o'clock Eastern time hit, my phone kept blowing up with Woj and Shams notifications talking about players signing here, this player getting this amount of money, this team making this move. A lot of moves were happening yesterday. I'm here to recap, give you my reaction to some of the big moves. And let's talk about it, man. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you are new. This is a place where we talk about NBA basketball, so if you love hoops, this is the place for you. Now, the first big bomb that dropped yesterday was Lonzo Ball going to the Chicago Bulls via sign and trade. I believe it was a four-year, $85 million deal, if I'm not mistaken. A lot of money for Lonzo Ball, but the Bulls finally get a point guard that I think fits this team perfectly. And I like the moves that the Bulls did make yesterday, too. They also brought in Alex Caruso. The only downside I think they had yesterday was letting go of Daniel Tice, because I think he could have been a nice piece of this team, some depth at the big man position off the bench. But they do lose him to Houston, but they bring in Caruso, Lonzo Ball, two defensive-minded guards. And I think Lonzo Ball kind of gets a lot because of, how he came into the league with a lot of hype because of his dad and stuff like that. And then his brother LaMelo comes in, has a very good year right away. And Lonzo's really starting to find his footing now. But I think this move to Chicago is going to impact Lonzo's game even more. I think he's going to, really be able to shine. Now, he had a good year last year, but I think he's going to take an even bigger step forward, getting to play with somebody like Zach LaVine in the backcourt. You got a big and Vucevic that the two-man game will be very good to run with. And, Lonzo will still be able to shoot the ball. He's been a 39% shooter over the last couple of seasons. And he's a great defender. And that's what this Bulls team has been missing, is the defense in the backcourt and playmaking. That's Lonzo Ball's strong suit, defense and playmaking. The ball should be in his hands maybe a little more than it was in New Orleans. But I really like this move by the Bulls. The Bulls went all in at the trade deadline, and it did not work out as they expected, because Zach LaVine got COVID, and it just didn't work on the court as quickly as maybe they had wanted it to. Trading for Vucevic, giving up Wendell Carter and other pieces. But I think that was the start for the Bulls to become a good team, to get back to the playoffs. And this is one of those finishing moves to solidify them as a playoff team. Now let's hope that health is good for this team, and hopefully it gels on the court, because I'm excited to watch this Bulls team. Definitely a team that I'm going to be watching a lot this season. And the next big domino to fall was surrounding the Miami Heat, and they've been linked to Kyle Lowry since this previous trade deadline. And now it's finally true. Kyle Lowry is a part of the Miami Heat. I believe 3 years, $90 million was the deal. That was reported early on in free agency, and I think this is just another really good move by the Miami Heat front office. I mean, they struggled last year. They were an up and down team last year. At times, they looked like the team that made the NBA Finals. And at other times, they looked like a team that was barely going to make the playoffs. But they were able to make the playoffs. They got swept in the first round by the Milwaukee Bucks. And they made moves yesterday that just makes them look like they're trying to get back to what they were in the bubble, but also that season as a whole, because they were just a tough-minded team. And I don't think they showed that as much last season. Injuries did have a part to do with that as well. But I think they're getting back to that mind state. You bring in Kyle Lowry, who's a very, tough championship-winning player. I think a glue guy at the point guard position. He just brings a lot to the table. It might not be an all-star again, but I think he still can provide so much for this Heat team, and that's why he got the contract that he did get. And that's why they re-signed Duncan Robinson to the biggest contract in NBA history for an undrafted free agent. That's crazy. I love to see that for Duncan. He has a very good podcast, too. I really enjoy his podcast. But 5 years, $90 million for somebody that has one job and one job only, and that's to shoot the ball, to shoot the lights out. And that's what he does. Last season was maybe a little down for him, but he was still probably like 40%, and that's a down year for Duncan Robinson. And also, another big move. Well, two underrated signs for this team. Getting P.J. Tucker. Getting P.J. Tucker is big time. Look, there were games in NBA Finals where P.J. Tucker took one shot, went 0 for 1 from the field, but still played like 40 minutes. And that's because his defense, his rebounding is that important. It's that impactful to, championship teams, to contending teams. And, shout out to P.J. for getting that ring with the Milwaukee Bucks, but now he's trying to take his value elsewhere and, getting a little bit of money to go to Miami to try and help them win the championship. And they also brought back Dwayne Dedmon. I think he was a big piece to this team as a backup big. He played really well for them. down the stretch of the season. So I think the Miami Heat and the Chicago Bulls walk away day one as the winners in free agency. Like, I don't really think it's too close. We'll see what happens with Victor Oladipo. I'm not really 100% sure what's going to happen with him, but I think even if they don't bring him back, this Miami Heat team on paper looks like a contending team out east. Not going to say that they're a favorite by any means because the Brooklyn Nets are still out there. And the Brooklyn Nets also, lost some pieces. So that's going to be – they lost Jeff Green. I'm kind of jumping everywhere, but they lost Jeff Green. That just popped into my mind. Jeff Green, I forget exactly where he signed, but he's no longer with the Brooklyn Nets. So that's a big-time loss for this team. I think he went to Denver. That's a big-time loss. Jeff Green played a lot of small ball five and was a very big defensive piece for this team. And had games in the he had a game in the postseason where he scored like 27 points. And he's capable of having, a good scoring game like that for this team. And now they lose him, and I don't know how they're going to replace him. They do bring back Blake Griffin. Blake played pretty good in the postseason, but I think the Jeff Green loss is pretty big. They also get back Bruce Brown. But losing Jeff Green it could be key. It could be. That's just one of those guys that provides so much that goes under the radar because he's not scoring 20 points a game, but we'll see how that impacts or if they are able to replace Jeff Green in another capacity, or maybe Blake Griffin is the Jeff Green replacement. I don't know how that works, but we'll definitely see about that. Some other guys re-signing. Mike Conley re-signs to the Utah Jazz. They also bring in Rudy Gay. I think that's a nice, impactful move, but I don't know. It's hard to really gauge the Jazz because they had every opportunity to make the finals this season, and they kind of folded. I know Donovan Mitchell was not 100%, but they still had every opportunity in the world, and they didn't pull it out. They were up 20 points in Game 6 against the Clippers, and they blew the lead. I don't know. We'll see how this team responds coming into this season, but I think this was their golden opportunity to make a legit finals run. The Suns, looks like they're running it back. They bring back Chris Paul. They bring back Cam Payne. They do lose Torrey Craig, one rotational piece gone, but they bring back their point guards. I'm sure the Suns are not done. I'm pretty sure they're going to make other moves. A backup big would be very helpful for this team. So we'll see, if that move occurs or, who they go after to, fill in, because Dario Saric might not even play this season because he did tear his ACL in the NBA Finals. So that's going to be another key piece for this team to try and replace, because they struggled when DeAndre Ayton had to step off the court in the finals. They really struggled when he had to step off the court. So hopefully they will get that situated. Other players re-signing. Derrick Rose staying with the Knicks. There were reports that the Lakers were interested. The Bulls wanted a reunion. The Knicks shut that down, and I like what the Knicks did in free agency too. They bring back Derrick Rose, $43 million. I like that D Rose is getting paid. I believe his last contract was a lot smaller than this. I think it was like 2 for like 17 or something. It wasn't a big deal, but D Rose has proved himself that he's still a legit NBA hooper. He has real hoop game still. So I like that the Knicks are bringing their guy back. They also get back Nerlens Noel. Alec Burks comes back. The only loss that that's undervalued is Reggie Bullock leaving. He went to the Mavericks. I believe he got $30 million over 4 years. Well, he performed really well for the Knicks last season. One of the players that kind of came out of nowhere, was hitting big shots for this team, was shooting the lights out all season long, was legit their best and maybe only like capable 3-point shooter consistently throughout the season. That's going to be a big time loss, but they also get Evan Fournier to try and replace that. And Evan Fournier is a little more dynamic of a two guard. He can shoot the ball, but he's also more of a shot creator than, just a standstill 3-point shooter like Reggie Bullock. We'll see how it impacts him defensively, because Fournier is not the best of defenders, but the Knicks, Tom Thibodeau gets the most out of his team defensively, so I don't think it'll be that much of an issue. But they gave Fournier almost $80 million. I believe it was 78 over 4 years. That's a big deal. So hopefully he performs a lot better than he did in Boston, because he wasn't good for the Celtics last season. So, but I like what the Knicks did. I do like what the Knicks did. Some young players getting their rookie extensions. Trae Young, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander getting rookie extensions. Trae got 207 and Shai got 172 with the chance to make it 207 if he becomes an All-NBA player. So shout out to the young guys for getting paid. Some other news that I seen this morning: Spencer Dinwiddie is nearing a deal with Washington, but nothing's final. Dwight Howard goes back to the Lakers. Kent Bazemore goes back to the Lakers. The Lakers trying to make some moves. We mentioned Reggie Bullock. Bobby Portis is going back to Milwaukee on a bargain deal, 2 years for $9 million, next year being a player option. We mentioned Rudy Gay. Shemi Ojale, he's going to the Bucks. I guess they're going to try and make him the PJ Tucker replacement. We'll see how that works out. And Sam Decker returning to the league after 2 years overseas. I didn't know he was overseas for that long. Trying to make sure I didn't miss any signings. Tim Hardaway Jr. got $74 million over 4 years to go back to Dallas. Shout out to Tim Hardaway. He played really well in the second half of the season. Kelly Olynyk got $37 million over 3 years for Detroit. Look, Detroit made a lot of questionable moves last offseason, but I like the direction that they're still going. You know, they have a lot of young talent, so you got to put the money somewhere. So you bring in Kelly Olynyk for $12 million a year. So we'll see, how he plays. Boban Marjanovic returns to Dallas on a 1-year deal. TJ McConnell, 4 years, $35 million to go back to Indiana. I thought he was going to be somebody that might, the Lakers might look at, the Celtics might look at, maybe the Bulls, the Knicks. I thought some teams could have looked at him, but he's an Indiana type of guy, and he's had his best years in Indiana. So shout out to him for getting the payday. And we'll see how the Pacers look on the court next season as well, because they weren't very good last year. They were not very good last year. But yeah, I mean, a lot of moves in day one of free agency. Jermichael Green goes back to the Nuggets. I'm trying to get every signing that I remember seeing, bro. But look, and Jared Allen re-signed. He got 100 M's. He got 100 M's over 5 years. So we're gonna see Mobley and Allen try and coexist in that front court. I like that. I think that's gonna actually work out pretty well. I think Mobley's gonna be a very good 4 in the NBA. And that's all the moves we're gonna talk about right now. But day one of NBA free agency, it was wild. Highlighted by Lonzo going to the Bulls and other big signings. And, some other dominoes still have to fall. We'll see what Kawhi does. It's looking like he's re-signing. And Kawhi's not somebody that's going to rush to re-sign. I mean, when he signed with the Clippers, he took like a week to sign with them. So people are like, oh, what's Kawhi doing? Kawhi's probably going to stay. And some other trade pieces, guys potentially on the block, they're still on their teams. Ben Simmons, the 76ers won 4 first-round picks. They want 4 first-round picks for Ben Simmons at least, and an all-star caliber player, and another rotational player. Look, I still believe in Ben Simmons, but you got to realize his value's at an all-time low right now. You're probably not getting 4 first-round picks from anybody, and an all-star caliber player on top of that. Philly has to get real with themselves in this situation, but you do got to try and get make his value seem as high as possible, so you can still get a good return for him. But we'll see how that works out. Dame is still a 76er. Dame is still a Portland Trailblazer, my bad. But so I don't know if he requested trade or not. They did. They re-signed Norman Powell. I forgot to mention that, for $90 million. So they have a lot of money tied up into Powell, CJ, and Dame. And Nurkic is making a decent amount of money too. So they have little to no wiggle room. It makes the Gary Trent trade seem a whole lot worse now, because Gary Trent only signed for $18 million a year. He re-signed in Toronto, but he only signed for $18 million a year. So that makes that trade look a whole lot more questionable now. Still not a fan of it, but I guess we'll see what Portland does, and we'll see what the rest of free agency holds. If any more big signings happen, or I might just do a recap of every day, we'll be here to talk about it, man. I appreciate the support. Shout out to y'all for running my Celtics video up to almost 1,000 views. That's the most I've gotten on this channel. I appreciate y'all. We're also nearing 300 subs. I appreciate all the support, everybody that likes, shares, is subscribed. I appreciate y'all so much, and I'll be back next time with another video, y'all. Peace.